This one about the population bottleneck involves a large parallel structure. It begins, some anthropologists believe, and then it gives this complex hypothesis. And then after the dash, it restates that. So the restating of the hypothesis has to be parallel to its first statement. So it has to be a structure like this. They believe that X dash that Y, where X and Y are in parallel. Y is a restatement of X. And so we need the word that for the parallelism. So only two choices have the word that. Furthermore, we have some variation between at some time and just some time. So at some time, that's perfectly correct. Some time, well, that's a noun phrase, and that doesn't fit the context here. What would be needed would be the single adverb, sometime. That would be correct, but that doesn't appear. And so any place where at some time appears is correct, and just sometime by itself is not correct. And finally, in other instance of parallelism, at the end of the sentence, we need an active verb, not a passive verb. Now, in general, the GMAT prefers active to passive anyway, but in particular here, for the parallel structure. So if we say that greatly reduced their numbers and thus our genetic variation, that's perfectly clear. But if we said something like, so that their numbers were greatly reduced, and thus our genetic variation, that's unclear. So we need the active structure, which we have with to reduce, and greatly reduce, greatly reducing, and we don't want the passive structure. Their numbers were greatly reduced. Their numbers were greatly reduced. The final thing I'll just say about answer choice E, very odd this structure, so as to reduce their numbers greatly. So as to reduce, that structure implies a kind of purpose. In other words, it almost implies as if our ancestors were purposely suffering this event so that they would purposely reduce their numbers. And of course, that's just absurd. So that phrasing just doesn't work there. So overall, we have eliminated A, C, D, and E, and we're left with answer choice B. Answer choice B is clear, it is free of grammatical errors, it is direct, powerful, sleek. It is by far the best answer choice.